What up, crypto fam? It's Phantom. We're here for another day of cryptocurrency news. Check the markets, see what's going on. It was a scarier day a little bit earlier in the day, but we've simmered down some. The fear and greed index is reflecting the little bit of fear that was felt across the S&P and the crypto space. Basically, high risk assets getting kind of elbow dropped because the talks between Ukraine and Russia aren't going that well. So that's the market's getting hit is a side effect, I believe, of that. I believe there's correlation. We have recovered some. The weekly support trend line seems to be holding. We've moved to 21, and we're in extreme fear still on the fear and greed index. And I'll show you the trend line here. We started to pierce it, but as I mentioned before, it would take a close below the trend line for me to start getting into more bearish thinking, with the possibility of 32 to 29k being on the horizon. So the trend line's doing its job, right? The trend line's holding exactly where it needs to hold. It's keeping the price above the line, and that's, to me, as long as it stays there, I'm bullish towards the upside. I think is our next move, unless we close below that, and then that will invalidate my thoughts, and we'll look further below to see where the next area of support is. So that said, I think all in all, the trend line doing its job is bullish behavior. We always want to see validation of the TA that we're performing. So this trend line can be drawn even as far back as July-ish, I believe. Even further than that, it's held up over time. Really, it's held up over since we've had the spike in the market since around, when was this, September of 2020. So we've cruised quite a bit, and obviously we've had our fall offs and our recoveries, but the trend line continues to do what the trend line does, and that's hold price at a certain level, and the trend line's going up. So take that as a win. We take that with a grain of salt, obviously, because there's news that can still hit the market that could be damaging. But as I mentioned in the stream yesterday, I think we have more good news coming with the possible eBay news being released, I believe, this week. And they are going to be coming out speaking of exactly what they plan on doing as far as the interest rates. They'll probably send some updated inflation numbers. I think the interest rate price is baked in already. I think we've already taken the hit from that announcement. I think if they stick to exactly what they said as far as a quarter of a point, or if they kick the can down the road, I think both are going to be more bullish events than a second negative event for us. So I'll be watching that, obviously, closely. The eBay news I really have a close watch on. I really am hopeful that they come out saying that they're going to start accepting, or at least looking into, Bitcoin as a form of payment. A lot of these companies aren't set to make these drastic decisions on the fly. They would have had quite a bit of research already done in the space, but it's a safe move for them to say that they're planning on researching the possibility of it. It kind of opens the doors for them to get a bunch of feedback from their community, feedback from other companies, and it really lets them kind of experiment with how people are planning to accept the news that they're releasing. So I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. If they come out and just mention that we're going to be taking Bitcoin as form of payment starting XYZ date, that's extremely bullish. If they say they're researching it, I think that's bullish behavior. We just don't have a fixed date and time. If they say they're not, if they don't mention it at all, I don't think there's any harm, any foul. I don't know how many in the space are really kind of blasting the news of this occurring in the next few days. I know a couple people have, but it's definitely been on my radar. So I will be watching it over the course of this week. That said, alts are recovering, which is great news. I still don't think there's any real value in checking out too many of the charts, just because they are really going to be dependent on what Bitcoin does. Bitcoin's in a very funky place right now. It's kind of it's testing its support levels, and it didn't stay above what was previous resistance for very long. So there's a short gap between this space. I'm not about trying to make moves until Bitcoin has a clearer direction. Obviously not financial advice, but I would like Bitcoin to kind of choose what direction it's going to take over the next few weeks, and then I'll start adding some more into my investments in the space and looking for setups. Obviously planning for both. I'm starting to create a plan whether we nuke down, and I'm creating a plan whether we continue to move up the trend line. And my third plan is if we get some big news and we have a whole crypto space turning bullish again, right? Which all are possibilities, so we plan for all of them, and then we'll just pull out the proper plan when the time comes. So I'm happy with the price. It's doing exactly kind of what I've been predicting over the last few days on my stream. The trend line's doing its job. Bitcoin is being boring as always. When it is in this sideways type of pattern, it just tends to bore the living daylights out of people for an uncomfy amount of time before it tends to make its larger high volatile move. Whether that's the upside or downside, there's not an information yet. We don't have all the data points to make that decision yet. But it's continuing its sideways boring movement, which, with all that's going on in the world right now, isn't a bad thing. Stability in a time like this, when a lot of the S&P got hammered. I mean, Tesla is at $800. The S&P just kind of got whacked with a stick in the face. So I'll take stability. I'm here for this. So I'll be watching really closely with the news coming out. The articles that I'm planning to show you, I think, are going to be good overall for Bitcoin's growth. So the first article that I found was Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin lose more sheen as Russia-Ukraine talks make little progress. Is crypto back to behaving like a risky asset? And I highlighted the why it matters section. The third round of Russia-Ukraine talks held in Belarus saw little progress on the issue of evacuating civilians, which is crazy to me that they have an issue with evacuating people. A fourth meeting between the two countries will take place very soon, according to Russia's negotiator. I'm not going to even attempt to pronounce that. Reports Reuters. The second largest crypto exchange by spot volumes, Coinbase, said Monday it had blocked 25,000 addresses related to Russian individuals or entities believed to be quote-unquote engaging in illicit activity. Once we identified these addresses, we shared them with the government to further support sanction enforcement. And this is from the chief legal officer at Coinbase. I'm not, as much as I am against Russia and everything that they're doing, the purpose of Bitcoin is monetary freedom for people. They're blocking 25,000 addresses. We all know that the 25,000 addresses are going to be, they're going to hit some common folk. They're going to hit some regular people in the community. There are civilians that are going to be punished for this. They say that they are targeting people that are quote unquote engaged in illicit activity, but I'm not confident that they have quality enough information on 25,000 people to block all these accounts. And even if that were the case, even if they did have some proof of activity that may be illicit, the purpose of Bitcoin is freedom. So it kind of goes against what Bitcoin stands for. This is exactly what the government of Canada did to its citizens, right? They froze their bank accounts. They froze their way to get funds that belong to them. And this is kind of showing an ugly hand that even though Bitcoin is a decentralized currency, if you keep your currency on an exchange, the exchanges themselves are centralized. And they can block accounts, lock accounts. They have the freedom to do what they see as right instead of what the general population or the community sees as right. So let this be a reminder to you to get all of your funds off of exchanges. Because at the end of the day, the government will bully around the exchanges, and the exchanges will do what the government wants because they want the support of the government for regulation to make sure that they continue to do business in the United States, so on and so forth. So they will always be working with government agencies when requested. So the best way we can fight back is take your money off exchanges. Take every crypto you have, throw it on a ledger device, throw it on any type of hardware wallet, some staking forum. Just get it off of the centralized exchanges. All of mine, I keep mine on a ledger hardware wallet. If you want a video on how to move funds to a ledger, I'd be happy to make one of those. But the point of this is to keep your money off exchanges. The exchanges are going to play by the rules of the government. They're not going to care about what the citizens or community has to say. They're going to do what they're told because they want to stay in business. The second article that I had is governments have unintentionally created the perfect environment for Bitcoin to thrive, which I think is spot on. It came from Barry Siebert. Many people follow him on Twitter. He wrote that Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies have been playing a massive role in the conflict so far for both Russia and Ukraine. Bitcoin's been a way to preserve the wealth of the citizens of the countries. Crypto's also proven instrumental in getting funds in and out of the country, as most traditional financial channels have collapsed. Spot on. Except the previous article that I just referenced, where the exchanges are starting to lock people's accounts. That doesn't mean that anybody in Ukraine's locked, but the fact is the government will stop asking them to freeze accounts when the government has succeeded in whatever goals or mission it has. So I believe that Bitcoin is unstoppable. I believe that this is having an adverse effect to what the governments thought it would be. I also believe that centralized exchanges are part of the problem, and that we need to, as a community, continue to keep our money off of those exchanges. And I believe that with all this happening, the exchanges being basically forced to freeze accounts for its users, not on any wish or desire of their own, I think this is going to have an undesired result for them as well, And I believe it's going to have a lot more people move towards a DEX or a decentralized exchange, where the people provide their own liquidity, collect their own fees for providing that liquidity, a percentage of the fees, and the exchanges aren't needed as much. There will always be a need for exchanges. It's people's on ramp to the world of cryptocurrency at the moment. That could change within the next few years. But they're entrenched, right? They have government walking with them hand in hand, telling them how to do certain things, what they can't do, what they can do. But I think this is going to have the unintentional impact. While they seem to be appeasing the government right now, and that's what they believe is good for their long-term strategies, I think the community will take a look at this and realize that they could just fall into part of the machine. That said, I'm looking into much more decentralized exchanges as something to invest in, because I think they're going to be more and more popular. Obviously, again, not financial advice, but I think this is just the start of these centralized exchanges freezing accounts and putting in the controls that government wants. And I think the obvious way to avoid this is decentralized exchanges, and I think a lot of the market will move in that direction. So those are my thoughts. I think Bitcoin is going to, as I said the last few streams, move uncomfortably sideways until it's ready to... I think it's going to need some type of catalyst event to move in one direction or another. I think we continue to move sideways and be boring until something lights the fire, or something gives oxygen to the little flame that we have. So I'll be watching closely. I'm hoping on the eBay news being good. Obviously, it could fall off. They could not even mention cryptocurrency at all. Although I think they'll get asked about it. Fingers crossed. Hopefully we're reporting on that this week, and there's some great news to be had for that. Till then, nothing really exciting. I'm not looking really at any type of altcoin charts right now until, like I said, Bitcoin makes its decision. So I'm waiting patiently on the sideways. Sometimes it's the best thing to do, is to just hold out and wait for opportunity. You know, I was thinking about this earlier today, and you know, even if you timed this perfectly, if you got in at a $3,000 Bitcoin and you got out at 60 grand, you would have done great. $57,000 gain, right? And that's if you timed the exact bottom, the exact top. Chances of that happening both times is really small. The more you try to hit the exact bottom and hit the exact top, the least likely you are to make the returns of following the trend, taking profits along the way, loading up as it goes down, you know, averaging in. You would have been better off investing in Shiba coin, right? Those people made 1,000 times gains. So I guess my point is, you don't always want to wait for the charts to give you an exact bottom and for everyone to agree that it's the bottom, because the chances are that being called exact is minute. The tops being called at the exact dollar range is minute. The first few times that I started to take profits on the way up, it wasn't easy, but I'm so thankful now that I've done that, and I want to share that. You know, it's not easy to take profits and watch the price continue to go up because you have fear of missing out. You want to just invest the money back, and that's when people dump all their money back at the top, and then they lose their ass on the way down. So just have a plan, invest an average on the way down as part of that plan, and scale out and take profits on the way up. Follow the momentum of the charts. The charts won't lie to you. Follow the news cycles, because I think it's more important than ever. I know a lot of people think that they can just perform technical analysis on these charts and nail it every time, and that may work on the lower or on the small time frames, but when we're taking a look at a larger scale, I'm on the side of support and resistance, and I think the news cycle does play a stronger hand in this than it has ever before. So that hasn't been really baked in to any type of technical analysis as of yet. Hint, hint. Hopefully someone's out there doing that now. But the news is important. The news plays a part. So pay attention to it. Pay attention to the charts. Have a plan. Execute on the plan. Until then, hopefully Bitcoin just continues to act like grandpa and snooze away, puts everyone to sleep before it makes its big news, and we get some good news in the coming weeks. I hope you have a great rest of your Monday. I hope you have an awesome Tuesday, and I'll catch you in the next video. Until then, peace.